So I remember growing up in high school, the most notable things that happened in school were the fights. They were the fights. There's three particular fights, but there was always, anytime there was something going down, everybody would just back up and say, hey, they need to work it out. Everybody back up. Let these two people work out their situation. You had Ben Palmer and Wyatt Eggleston. You had Bobby Jump and Jason Jones. You had Mason Brock and Charles Hoffman. So Ryan, any one of these. Let's see, Bobby Jump and Jason Jones. It's going to happen in this cafeteria. Somebody said something, and I remember one of them beating the other one. Like, the other one just, like, decked the other one, and the other one just kind of, like, just looked at him like, what the fuck did you just do? And then, like, reacted or something, but ultimately the sucker puncher got the best of him. But I can't remember which was which. I want to say Jason hit Bobby. You got Wyatt Eggleston, you got Ben Palmer. Wyatt Eggleston was a troublemaker. Ben Palmer's like this nerdy kid, this smart academic kid. Wyatt Eggleston, Ben Palmer. Wyatt said something, I don't know. Somebody said something. Wyatt got mad and hit Ben across the mouth. Ben thought about it for a second, tackled the fuck out of Wyatt into some desk. So I felt like that was, Ben got hit first, and then Ben stood up for himself. And then Charles Hoffman and Mason Brock, I don't even remember this. All these actually happened in the 8th grade. So that means I'm 13 years old. 13 years old. 82, so 95, 1995. All this happened in 1995. Mason Brock, he fucking beat this, I was at this party. I was at this, alcohol party at Xavier University, and one of my friends was following me up the steps. And I didn't notice him, and then, he had hit me on the back. It was such a small, hit on the back, I didn't even notice it. And I just kept walking into, the other part of the room. And then some lady said, "Oh, I don't know what you just said, but you just got your ass kicked." Oh, yeah. Do you want to fight? Is that what you said? But what a stupid fucking, you got your ass kicked because somebody barely hit you in the back? Motherfucker. I've seen ass kickings, okay? And Charles Hoffman and Mason Brock, I'm going to guess Charles said something, right? Charles Hoffman said something, pissed Mason Brock off. And Mason Brock is a fully developed man. This is the 8th grade, right? So we're right there at puberty. But Mason Brock, he's a man. He's already fucking 30 years old. Charles Hoffman, he's got a man's body too, but it looked like he just became a man yesterday. Anyways, Mason Brock hits Charles Hoffman in the face. Charles Hoffman just bleeding out his face, just bleeding out his nose, bleeding all over the place. So it's just, we go to public education, we're in America, we have a constitution, we have all these individual rights and freedoms and shit. There's a teacher, Mr. Heim. And this is how I actually look at the entire world. What was awesome about Mr. Heim's class was that he had homework that he wanted us to do, but it's a science teacher, so he's actually got to teach us something. But it felt like we were in solidarity. The whole class together. We were in solidarity. We wanted him to not give us homework. Don't be such a fucking Nazi. Tell us about the real world. Talk to us about the real world. And he did. And we would listen. And it was a great education. He was actually leveling with us. He was like the only person in the entire world that was talking to us. The solidarity that I felt in Mr. Heim's room is the, solidarity that I want to feel in all the other classrooms. Because we were all together. The longer that we kept him talking, the less chance he would give us homework. And then we would, have our freedom and just come back tomorrow. And we were all ready to learn. We'd listen to him for the whole hour, so it's not like we were being unruly and shit. So I would sit in the classroom and it would feel like we were all together, 20, 30, students. We were all together listening to the teacher, but also trying to filibuster him so that way he wouldn't. Basically, we were all together to get Mr. Heim to be an actual person. And more times than not, he was. And I would say he's the best teacher I've ever had. But even though I feel this great solidarity with, my fellow man, when I go to college, I didn't feel the same. I felt the same way, but because there's people, right? Where there's people, there's power. Where there's people, there's power. But the professors and the students, they're all ready to just, tell the professor they're the smartest person in the world. The professor, want to be called boss. So we weren't going to actually have real conversations. American institution, you can't even have real conversations. Where the fuck can we go to, talk and discuss and actually, talk about the different ideas and the good life and what is justice? Where the hell are we allowed to talk about that shit if it's not at college? We're adults. We're young Americans. And frankly, I don't like the authoritarian atmosphere whatsoever. But I feel like in college, more times than not, it was the opposite. And in every other classroom, I felt a great solidarity with my peers. But most of them were a bunch of kiss-ass bitches who were ready to kiss the teacher's ass. They didn't give a shit about their fellow man, left to the right. They didn't care about solidarity. They didn't care about unions. They didn't care about the law. They didn't care about morality. They didn't care about appealing to the person on their side. I'm going to appeal to the Nazi fascist fucker in the front. So fascism looks normal to the average American. I mean, public education. You're right. You got the fascists in front. What am I saying about all this? Is about all quiet on the Western Front, but the conclusion about the, Gallatin County in Kentucky is that we were all savages because we didn't know how to talk to each other. We didn't know how to discuss or talk to one another. We were all a bunch of fucking savages, having to do different things for parents and teachers and pulled in every goddamn different direction. We knew how to obey. The teacher says obey. We knew how to do that. But when some bad shit was going down, we didn't know how to stick up for one another. There was no democracy, no solidarity, no unity whatsoever. It was cutthroat. There's a bell curve. Some people get F's, some people get A's. And I was valedictorian in my class, so, I figured something that I say about this subject would matter. I conquered public education, and public education is a farce. It's bullshit. All quiet on the Western Front, they had this teacher named Erich. And Erich is going to get all the students to sign up for war. So Erich, this is World War I, and this is written from the perspective of Germany. He's going to become an American citizen in 1947. But this is published in 1928. The First World War is going to be 1917, 1918, and it was mostly about trench warfare. Erich Remarque was born June 22nd, 1898. And basically, war is hell. War is hell. I'm just going to tell you the plot, all right? Here's the plot of All Quiet on the Western Front. It's the record of 7 schoolboys who are representative of a generation destroyed by the shells and pressure of World War I. Because of the urgings of their teacher, Erich, whom they trust, all 7 enlist in the army to serve the fatherland. Paul Balmer, a young and sensitive member of the group, narrates the story. The story opens behind the German front lines. Paul and his friends are less naive as a result of their battle experience. Joseph Bem has already been killed. Joseph Bem is the first of Paul's schoolmates to be killed in the war. You also got Lieutenant Bert Tink. You got Albert Kropp. You got Lear. You got Stanislaus Kaczynski. You got Moeller. You got Jaden. You got Paul Balmer. Dietering. You got Franz Kimmerich. Hey Westus. Dietering. Corporal Himmelstoss. Ginger Tijen. Lieutenant Burr Tink. Sergeant Ulrich. Heinrich Bredemeyer. Mittelstadt Botcher. Joseph Hammaker. Little Peter. Franz Wachter. Sister Libertine Berger. Gerald Duvall. Now, I have never been able to get in this book myself or the movie, but I'm going to try to read the whole book, or at least watch the whole damn movie. And why? Because the goddamn Nazis in America, in Austria, and Italy, didn't want us to read this book. This book says war is hell. It says war is hell. It says that we poor peasants are sent to the front lines to be used as cannon fodder. War is hell. We are nobodies. They're expending our lives for just an inch of territory or some fucking, you're not happy about the military alliance of my government? Fuck the fuck off. Joseph Bim has already been killed. Franz Kemmerich has had his leg amputated. A letter from Kanturek stirs the group's anger and despair at their shattered lives. Chapter 2. The experience of military training in the war has been disillusioning for Paul Bomber, and his friends. Corporal Himmelstoss wrung much of their youthful idealism out of them during basic training. The comradeship and esprit de corps are the only worthwhile results of the military training. At the end of the scene, Kemmerich, Paul's childhood friend, dies from his amputation. Chapter 3. The focus in this chapter is on Kat, who typifies the shrewd, self-reliant soldier. No matter what the situation, Kat is able to find food and supplies for his friends. News of Himmelstoss's arrival at the front causes Paul Bomber and his friends to remember the night before they left and how they revenged themselves on Himmelstoss. Let's read a chapter of this stupid-ass fucking book, huh? My God. Making fucking reading cool. You know how to make reading cool? Tell everybody, hey, the words in this fucking scholarly book is, it's not a bunch of filth, right? It's not a bunch, there's no pictures whatsoever. So just some asshole wrote his thoughts down on some fucking pages, and that somehow bothers you? What the fuck is the matter with you? Jesus Christ. I mean, and hell, those damn books that have all the sex scenes are the ones that sell the most and more popular than the rest. See it too much, because I do not know what might happen then. I'm a soldier, I must cling to that. Warily I stand up and out of the window. Then I take one of the books intending to read and turn over the leaves. But I put it away and take out another. There are passages in it that have been marked. I look, turn over the pages, take up fresh books. Already they're piled up beside me. Speedily more join the heap, papers, magazines, letters. I stand there dumb as before a judge, dejected. Words, they do not reach me. Slowly I place the books back in the shelves. Nevermore. Quietly I go out of the room. Still I do not give up hope. I do not indeed go to my room anymore, but comfort myself with the thought that a few days are not enough to judge by afterwards. Later on, there's plenty of time for that, so I go over to see Mittelstadt in the barracks. When we sit in his room, there's an atmosphere about it that I do not like, but with which I am quite familiar. Mittelstadt has some news ready for me that electrifies me on the spot. He tells me that Kanturek has been called up as a territorial. Just think of it, says he, and takes out a couple of good cigars. I come back here from the hospital and bump right into him. He stretches out his paw to me and bleats, "Hello, Mittelstadt, how are you?" I look at him and say, "Territorial Kanturek. Territorial Kanturek. Business is business and schnapps is schnapps, and you ought to know that well as enough. Stand to attention when you speak to a superior officer. You should have seen his face. A cross between a dud and a pickled cucumber. He tried once again to chum up. So I snubbed him a bit harder. Then he brought up his biggest guns and asked confidentially, "Would you like me to use my influence so that you could take an emergency exam? He was trying to remind me of those things, Then I got mad and I reminded him of something instead. Territorial Kanturek, 2 years ago you preached us into enlisting, and among us there was one Joseph Bim who didn't want to enlist. Damn, the first one to get killed is the one that didn't want to enlist. He was killed 3 months before he would have been called up in the ordinary way. If it had not been for you, he would have lived just for that much longer. And now, dismiss. You will hear from me later." It was easy to get put in charge of his company. First thing I did was to take him to the stores and fit him with suitable equipment. You'll see in a minute. We go to the parade ground. The company has fallen in. Mittelstadt stands them at ease and inspects. Then I see Kanturek, and I'm scarcely able to stifle my laughter. He is wearing a faded blue tunic. On the back and in the sleeves there are big, dark patches. The tunic must have belonged to a giant. The black worn breeches are just as much too short. They reach barely halfway down his calf. The boots, tough old clodhoppers with turned up toes and laces at the side, are much too big for him, but a compensation. So that was an exciting passage that I randomly picked out. Had to do with that Canerick. The goddamn Canerick met his old fucking pupil. Yeah, I hear you, Teach. Yeah, I know you want to be best friends with me, Teach, so you don't have to do the hard shit, Teach. You don't want to get the bad, stupid shit, Teach. I know, Teach. You're being a little kiss-ass bitch, Teach. Fuck off. Nah, you're my inferior. I'm not your goddamn buddy. Go do your goddamn job. You told me to come out here, you motherfucker. Now look how ironic. Now you're out here with us. Fantastic. That's, poetic justice. I think that's the best part of the goddamn book, frankly. Canerick, you fucking piece of shit. Chapter 4, the action of this chapter is at the front. Paul and his unit have been assigned the job of laying barbed wire while returning to the waiting trucks. Paul's company undergoes a terrific bombardment. Chapter 4 is a complete description of frontline war. Chapter 5, Hemostas appears at the front and tries to make friends with Paul and his friends. He's insulted and generally abused, but succeeds in having Jaden and Crop given light company punishment. The comradeship theme is developed further when Kat and Paul steal a goose and share it with their friends. Paul Bomber, the battle pattern. Chapter 6, the battle pattern described in this chapter is typical of trench warfare during World War I. Paul and his friends remain on the line throughout the summer and return to the rear for a rest in the fall. Chapter 7, Paul and his comrades are moved farther behind the lines for a rest. Their time is spent eating, sleeping, and being friendly with local girls. Paul is sent home for a 17-day leave. His homecoming is disappointing because he feels that he no longer fits or belongs. The war has destroyed his ambition and youthful pleasures. In Paul's mind, the despair brought about by the war is emphasized by what he finds on the furlough. Chapter 8, coming up. There's only 12 chapters. I want to actually just read the censorship history. The only reason this book has any goddamn appeal to me whatsoever. Seems like just a, fucking war story. What the fuck ever. We got some great war stories. We got some terrible war stories. So it's got to be between those, two. So the censorship. Nazi Germany is going to censor the fuck out of it, right? It's going to get published in 1928, the end of the war. So it's about 10 years after the end of the war, right? But that's right there, Nazism is going to be rising in the 20s and the 30s. So they're going to ban this book. All Quiet on the Western Front. War is hell. War is hell. If you go to war, you might get shot and killed. You might get pushed to the front line as goddamn cannon fodder. The whole thing about All Quiet on the Western Front comes back from the very last page. Spoiler alert. The very last page of All Quiet on the Western Front is about how this guy is going to get shot and killed. The author, Paul Bomber. So Paul Bomber is going to get shot and killed. October 1918, which they say is like right around the armistice, right around the peace. But he's going to get shot and killed. But that day was quiet. And the rest of the front, nothing else happened. So when the press reported what happened that day, they said all quiet on the Western Front. Oh, Paul Bomber got shot and killed, but that's nothing. That's not like fucking dozens and dozens and dozens of people getting shot and killed. All quiet on the Western Front. He had fallen forward and lay on the earth as though sleeping turned him over. One saw that he could not have suffered long. His face had an expression of calm, almost as if he was glad that the end had come. All quiet on the Western Front. All quiet on the Western Front. Chapter 8. Before returning to his outfit, Paul goes through a refresher military training course at a camp on the moors. There he discovers that the men in a Russian prison camp are also human beings. What? This revelation further confirms doubts about the war. 1918, he goes to a Russian prison camp. Was that under the Tsar or under the Bolsheviks? That'd be an interesting chapter right there. Fucking Bolsheviks are in, the Russia. They're the ones taking over Russia. Let's talk about the censorship. I got this book called 120 Banned Books. 120 banned books. And it says All Quiet on the Western Front was banned in Boston in 1929 on the grounds of obscenity. In the same year in Chicago, U.S. Customs seized copies of the English translation, which had not been expurgated. Lee Burris in the Battle of the Books, Literary Censorship in the Public Schools reveres challenges on the grounds of its being too violent and its depiction of war are brutal and dehumanizing. A more recent example is identified in attacks on freedom to learn, which the annual survey of school censorship of People for the American Way, in which the charge was foul language. California. So California went ahead and banned the book. Chicago, Boston. The suggestion is, however, that the censors have shifted their tactics using these charges instead of traditional accusations of globalism. So watch out. Foul language. Uh-oh, that's got obscenity and foul language. And I read you part of the damn book. Did you read any of the foul language that was in it? And it was, Remarque sounds like a French name. All Quiet on the Western Front. He's a German. So the fact that we even got this book at all is freaking amazing. The 1930 U.S. film All Quiet on the Western Front was acclaimed as one of the greatest anti-war films ever made. It won the Best Film Oscar. It won the Academy Award Best Film, Best Director, so it swept the Oscars that year. But it's been banned too. So, of course, the Nazis, right? Let's see, the Nazis, Joseph Goebbels, there's a big demonstration December 5th, 1930. They were saying that it's a bunch of Jewish lies. They said it was hate film slandering the German soldier. It said it removed all the dignity from the German soldier. They didn't like that it was anti-war. And they didn't like that it was written from the perspective of a German soldier. And that you could just be sent to the front lines as cannon fodder. Hey, you piece of shit, get to the front lines. Okay, sir, but can I ask why? Well, no, but I'll tell you anyways. Get to the front line because I want them to blow your fucking head off. Because I don't like your fucking face, you ugly fuck. Now get on up there. Yes, sir. In effect, they condemned the film for being true to the novel. To them, its portrayal of German soldiers as being frightened by their first exposure to gunfire and disillusioned by the battlefield carnage to question their superiors. And the ultimate purpose of the war. They're going, what happened to the, you don't love the troops and the bravery and the discipline of the Germans? The Germans have got to kill them Americans. The Germans need to kill them damn British. The Germans need to kill them French. The Germans need to kill the Russians. The Germans need to kill the Austrians. The Germans got to kill. How dare you say that mass rape and mass murder is wrong? How dare you? Parallel reactions in Austria led to violent street confrontations at the film's preview on January 3rd, 1931. January 10th, it was banned. It was denied exhibition in Hungary, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia. So there you go, goddamn California and Boston and Chicago. You're just like Hungary and Bulgaria and Yugoslavia when it comes to freedom of speech. Oh shit, All Quiet on the Western Front. What if the American people don't love the shit out of war? What if next time we have a big fucking war, they don't sign up? 1933, all of Remarque's works were consigned to the infamous bonfires. May 10th, the first large-scale demonstration occurred in the front of the University of Berlin. Students gathered 25,000 volumes of Jewish authors, and then 40,000 unenthusiastic people watched. Similar demonstrations took place at other universities. In Munich, 5,000 children watched and participated in burning books labeled Marxist and un-German. In 1929, Austrian soldiers were forbidden to read the book. In Czechoslovakia, it was barred from military libraries. In 1933, in Italy, the translation was banned because of its anti-war propaganda. In the United States, in 1929, the publishers Little, Brown, and Company acceded to suggestions of the Book of the Month Club judges who had chosen the novel as the club's June selection. To make some changes, they deleted 3 words, 5 phrases, 2 entire episodes. Because they said it was just a little too robust for the American reader. It was coarse and vulgar. We believe it's the greatest book about the war yet written, and that for the good of humanity, it should have the widest possible circulation. So they're simultaneously censoring the book while also publishing it, their censored version to the utmost. So, there you go. Goddamn Czechoslovakia, goddamn Austria, goddamn Italy, goddamn the United States, Boston, Chicago. U.S. Customs, Boston, Chicago, U.S. Customs, and California. Oh, foul language. Oh, really, California? That insults your delicate sensibilities, huh? There is foul language in the book. Fucking California motherfuckers. There is foul language. There was foul. That language was foul. You know what's real foul? People dying by the fucking bushel and nobody giving a goddamn flying fuck. That's foul as fuck. That's foul as fuck. So, you know, basically no difference all across the world, right? All across the world you had a bunch of dictating, tyrannical, fascist motherfuckers saying, we know what's best for you. We know what's... Now, you can't read this book. If you read this book, you might think for yourself. If you read this book, you might find out that mass rape and mass murder is wrong and bad. And then you might not go to the front lines. Hell, you might come after us for trying to send you and your loved ones out to fight and die for no goddamn reason. Let's see if we can at least finish the damn thing, huh? Chapter 9, returning to his unit, Paul Bummer feels a sense of belonging he was unable to feel at home after being inspected by the Kaiser. The company is sent again to the front in a patrol action. Paul is forced to kill a French soldier named Gerard Duval. This act brings him face to face with his enemy, and he is conscience stricken by his act of murder. It's murder. This is mass fucking murder. Chapter 10, for 3 weeks, Paul's squad is given the duty of guarding a supply depot. This turns out to be a plush assignment, for there is an abundance of food and items of comfort while trying to evacuate a village. Krop and Paul are wounded. They succeed in being placed in the same hospital. Krop's leg must be amputated. Paul recovers sufficiently to be given a leave and then return to active duty. Chapter 11, the action of this chapter takes place during the last summer of the war. The German war machine is crumbling and the front line no longer exists. All of Paul's schoolmates have been killed. In this chapter, Paul's best friend, Kat, is wounded, then killed by a flying splinter while being carried to a dressing station. The death of Kat is a mortal blow to Paul. Chapter 12, the time is the fall of 1918. Paul is killed 1 month before the armistice on an exceptionally quiet day on the Western Front. On a quiet day, all quiet on the Western Front. I heard that joke used on The Simpsons. Yeah, right, talking about how his sexuality, his vitality was so, you know, whatever. Oh, yeah, right, more like all quiet on the Western Front. More like all quiet on the Western Front. Since we're getting some work done, let's, I got 2 pages marked here. You think I can get them done in the last 2 minutes? We're going to make it under 30 minutes. A wide belt is being raked. The attack does not come, but the bombardment continues. We're gradually benumbed. Hardly a man speaks. We cannot make ourselves understood. Our trench is almost gone. At many places, it's only 18 inches high. It's broken by holes and craters and mountains of earth. A shell lands square in front of our post. At once it's dark. We are buried and must dig ourselves out. After an hour, the entrance is clear again, and we are calmer because we have something to do. Our company commander scrambles in and reports the 2 dugouts are gone. The recruits calm themselves when they see him. He says that an attempt will be made to bring up food this evening. That sounds reassuring. No one had thought of it except Jaden. Now the outside world seems to draw a little nearer. If food can be brought up, thank the recruits, then it can't be so bad. We do not disabuse them. We know that food is important as ammunition. Food is as important as ammunition, and only for that reason must it be brought up, but it miscarries. The second party goes out. It also turns back. Finally, Cat tries, and even he reappears without accomplishing anything. Even the great Cat couldn't fucking accomplish shit. Fucking goddamn court, the damn language. The tins of liver sausages, the conserves, the boxes of cigarettes rejoice our hearts. Each man has a bag to himself. Crop 239. Crop and I have rescued 2 big red armchairs as well. They stand inside the bed. We sprawl back in them as in a theater box. Above us swells the silken cover like a baldacquin. Each man has a long cigar in his mouth, and thus from aloft we survey the scene. Between us stand a parrot cage that we found for the cat. She's coming with us and lies in the cage before her saucer of meat and purrs. Slowly the lorries roll down the road. We sing. Below us shells are sending up fountains from the now utterly abandoned village. A few days later, So let's see how the movie is. 1930. Huh?